Please, the November 25th, 2024 meeting of the Recreation and Education Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy is present. Chairman Baines.
Here.
Chairman Baines is present. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman is present. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman is present. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns is present. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe is present. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair is present.
Well, I'm delighted to introduce Robert Franklin, the Chief Financial Officer of Monroe County, who's here to present the 2025 proposed Monroe County budget as it pertains to the Recreation and Education Committee. And we will have a question and answer period of some duration after the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to go? Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time for this presentation to the Recreation Education Committee. Areas of our county budget pertaining to this particular committee include our Parks Department, Monroe Community College, the county library system, and our authorized agencies. In total, proposed appropriations for next year increase about $1.9 million over the currently adopted budget. It's up by about 2.3%. Starting with our Department of Parks, the proposed spending plan for our Parks Department is increasing by about $1.3 million compared to the currently adopted budget. That is offset in part by roughly $554,000 of expected additional revenues. Payroll and benefits combined are increasing by $1.4 million, spread across all the divisions within Parks, and it reflects the addition of 21.5 seasonal staff FTEs. Other notable changes in this budget include, within the administrative division, lower cash funding for capital projects by about $245,000. Within the operations division, $75,000 in funding for a study of Northampton Park trails and trail development. Within the horticultural division, $150,000 in funding for the Lilac Festival, which I believe was discussed in a previous referral. And within our golf course division, a $235,000 increase for their greenskeeping equipment lease. Okay. Turning to Monroe Community College, the county's cost of supporting higher education includes our sponsor contribution to MCC, the debt service we pay on MCC capital projects, and what we pay other community colleges when our student residents enroll there rather than with MCC. As agreed to by the county legislature earlier this summer, our sponsor contribution to MCC will be increasing by $520,000 compared to the 24 adopted budget. Also increasing next year is our estimate of out-of-county support, and those two increases are more than offset by a reduction in debt service now that the borrowing for Property Preservation 2 has been fully paid off. Turning the page to our library systems, anticipated spending will increase about 2.5% or $301,000. Net county support comes out a little higher also and is comprised of our payment to the City of Rochester for central services, library debt service, and the county's cash capital contribution for continuing library automation system improvement. And finally, looking at the county's authorized agencies. Our financial support for arts, cultural, and educational agencies is supported to a large extent by hotel occupancy taxes, but also to a lesser extent, real property taxes as well. The most notable changes in county support include increasing support for Visit Rochester, which in turn works to increase local tourism, increasing our support for existing authorized agencies, an increase in support for community festivals, and the addition of Monroe Community Sports Center Corporation for their management of Tim Hortons Iceplex. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the presentation. Happy to field questions back at the table.
I would love to.
Go with you, Legislator Sinclair.
All right, you got it. Through the chair, for general questions, what percentage of the Department of Public Works is mandated or non-mandated?
Mr. Chairman, we don't bring that information with us tonight, but we will follow up.
Thank you. And through the chair, can you provide the legislature with a breakdown of all the positions that fall under this portion of the 2025 budget that are authorized, funded, and vacant? And this breakdown should include each title, corresponding budget amounts, salaries, Social Security, contributions, medical insurance, and dental insurance.
Mr. Chairman, we will follow up.
Thank you. And the performances, through the chair, on page 231, what is the reasoning behind the golf fees increasing?
Through the chair, general golf fees have not gone up in over a decade. Since that time, we've made significant financial investments with the golf courses, with upgrades to clubhouse restrooms, continuous cart paths, irrigation and drainage work. In addition, there continue to be special rates for veterans to make it very affordable for them. The courses we have are still the most affordable in the area.
Thank you. And through the chair, on page 232, what's the reasoning behind the price increase for the shelter and lodge fees?
Through the chair, these fees have gone up in similar fashion. Again, it's been over a decade since they've gone up. We've made substantial improvements to the lodges themselves with new restroom upgrades, kitchenettes, just general refurbishment of most of them in the park system.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, on page 332 also, the 3-star facilities, why were the Old Meadow, Orchard Grove shelters and Ellison Park removed?
Page 232.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the 3-star facilities still include Old Meadow, Orchard Grove, at Ellison Park.
Sorry, I do see that now. Through the chair, page 233. Why are the Seneca Park Zoo fees from April through October higher, and why are they increasing overall? Sure. On page 233, why are the Seneca Park Zoo fees from April to October higher, and why are they increasing overall?
Those are seasonal fee changes. Overall, again, these fees have not gone up in over a decade. Since that time, there have been millions of dollars spent as part of the 2015 master plan improvements. The zoo is now part of Museums for All, providing $1 admission for those who are eligible for SNAP benefits. Those were not available as short ago as 3 years ago. You will still be able to purchase tickets at the old rate by simply purchasing your tickets online. Pushing people to online sales benefits us by capturing contact information for follow-up marketing, surveying their experience, et cetera. The experts tell me, those are from SSA and Zoo Society, this will help drive admissions and memberships and is a better business model for us. There is a consensus between SSA, Zoo Society that this is the way to go in the future.
Thank you. My next question is through the chair. Why are the tickets cheaper, $2 per person for the Seneca Park Zoo when purchased online? I think you kind of answered that one.
That allows folks that purchase them online to have the same rate as they've had for the last decade.
Thank you. And through the chair, why are some of the conservatory entrance fees increasing?
Again, those fees there have not risen in roughly a decade.
Through the chair, is there a reason or concern with the zoo attendance seeming to be downward and missing estimation of the attendance in 2023 and lower estimates in 2024 and 25?
We don't think they're substantially lower. We do believe that next year with the fee changes and the online that they will be able to bring up admissions for the zoo.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, the 2024 proposed budget listed an objective mapping all water lines in the Monroe County Park System. Why was only Mendon Park's water mapping system done so far, and the rest of the mapping water lines is now 2025 objective? And what's caused the delay?
Mr. Chairman, the Mendon Ponds Park is one of our most dynamic parks with the largest underground, privately owned infrastructure. It is frequently a cause of concern for the department based on the multiple water main breaks that we occur. So we targeted Mendon as the first location. As funds are available, we will be pursuing other problematic parks one by one.
Through the chair, regarding the construction of the Labor Center at Powder Mills Park. This was a 2024 objective, now pushed to 2025. What's the cause for that delay?
Mr. Chairman, as we move through the final phase of the Go Outside Monroe initiative, we have seen cost escalation across the board as one measure to ensure that we are able to accomplish the goals and objectives that we have set forth. We have looked to stage projects in bidding sequentially to ensure that once we have one bid that's open, we understand it's on budget, that we can then move forward with the next project. And so we're currently soliciting bids for the Canatota Lodge renovation. And as soon as those bids come in, we'll pursue diligently the Labor Center at Powder Mills Park.
Thank you. And through the chair, in the 2024 installation of the ADA accessible kayak and canoe launch in the park system was an objective. Why was this pushed back to 2025?
Mr. Chairman, the environmental permitting for that launch and the presence of critically endangered state mussels.
Yes. Through the chair, what is the update on the irrigation and drainage improvements for the county park golf courses as it was in 2024, as it was a 2024 objective?
Mr. Chairman, we are currently under construction at Hole 2 at the Durand Eastman Golf Course, regrading the vast majority of the fairways, installing new subsurface drainage and irrigation for that hole. And as funds become available, we will pursue a similar project at Hole 9 at the same course to Rand Eastman.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, as a goal in 2024, were restorations made to the historic 1905 Denzel Carousel and the surrounding structure. We don't see any updates in the 2025 budget.
Mr. Chairman, I can provide an update on that project. Parks, in coordination with DES, did solicit bids. Unfortunately, did not have any bidders for that project. We scaled the project back to a certain degree, splitting it in half, soliciting a professional for just the intricate and historical carousel work itself, and then pursuing upgrades to the surrounding facade and structure. That project was recently bid. Bids were opened. And while some costs are escalated based on the engineer's estimates, we will be pursuing that project.
Thank you. Through the chair, can you provide an update on the quality and usage of electric mowers? And have they been efficient in carrying out the tasks?
Mr. Chairman, the department was able to attain electric mowers via a grant that was 100% cost covered from what is my understanding. This was through DES. Those vehicles were immediately put into service in the Parks Department and have been used since. I guess I would characterize our employees having used these successfully throughout this whole summer, and we would continue to use them.
And through the chair, is there a concern or reasoning why the Seneca Park Zoo, city shelters, and many of the city area parks like Ellison Park are declining in usage as opposed to the suburban park metrics?
Mr. Chairman.
Are we asking the administration to speculate or work from some type of data for that question?
Mr. Chairman, I think we would want to take a look at the data to be able to interpret that, not having those numbers offhand, so we can get back to this body with that information.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm sorry, this is for appropriations. Through the chair to the administration, on page 603, Parks Administration. Why did the salaries increase by $181,000?
Mr. Chairman, this increase primarily reflects the addition of one FTE, which was transferred from the temporary helpline, but also is reflective of contractually obligated pay and step increases, and again, a large contingent of the parks staff are CSCA, and we tried to accommodate in this budget pay increases resulting from the to-be voted on contract.
To the administration, or excuse me, through the chair. Why does the temp help fall 35,000?
Mr. Chairman, new in 2025, we are budgeting part-time staff as salaries, just like full-time staff, and only the seasonal or per diem staff will remain on temporary help.
And a follow-up, why does the overtime fall to $2,000?
Mr. Chairman, that really is just reflective on the Parks Department management team just trying to control their use of overtime expenses.
And through the chair to the administration, why does the provision capital projects fall $107,000?
Mr. Chairman, the management team at Parks and Finance review the capital needs in proposed in each CIP on an annual basis. The Parks Department has chosen to move forward with Funding building and structures by 500,000, their heavy equipment by 100,000, light equipment by 20,000, parks, utilities, access and site improvements of $193,000, and lastly, replacement vehicles of $180,000.
Thank you. And through the chair, why did the total benefits rise $72,000?
That, Mr. Chairman, really is reflective of the increase in salaries. Many of the benefits are driven by what we pay our staff, such as FICA and pension.
Through the chair, page 604, continuing Parks Administration. Why the $61,000 decrease in interdepartment charges?
Mr. Chairman, there are a dozen or so items that make up interdepartment charges. Each are delineated separately on this particular page, page 604. So you can see relative increases or decreases in any particular line.
I yield.
I'm going to ask a couple follow-up questions, kind of macroeconomic questions related to parks. So we haven't raised most of the fees that the legislator asked about for over 10 years. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
How much money have we invested capital improvements in the last 4 years I've been around?
Mr. Chairman, we can get you the exact number, but it's more than
Approximately.
20 million.
We invested 20 million, and these services that we're providing, whether they're golf or rental of venue sites, what's our philosophy? Is our philosophy to charge the market rate for those who compete with us who are in the private sector? Have spaces for people to rent?
Mr. Chairman, I think we try to have an economical opportunity for individuals across the county to either recreate via reservations of shelters, lodges, or utilize our golf courses or visit the zoo.
So the operating philosophy is that the taxpayers paid for it, and we want to make sure that they have access to it at a reasonable fee?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
But isn't it true that the folks who don't play golf, people who don't use these recreational venues are subsidizing the folks who do? By choice, by not using them, but just to kind of make a point.
Personally speaking, although I do like to play golf, I spent more of my younger years in Ellison Park and Durand Eastman Park on cross-country skis and para-hiking boots. So I think a lot of our population around the county utilizes county parks, whether for their intended purpose, like a round of golf, can be debated.
Oh, I'm sure. I appreciate that. And before we move on to our next set of questions, I think the point is that folks do use our facilities, and we want them to. They're not all from our county, in fact. And most of the things that they can do are free. And they pay. Now let's go to our next set of questions. Legislator McCabe.
Thank you, Chairman Baines. On page 605, I see the salaries are increasing by 653,000 and the temp help is falling by 420,000. I think you've explained that money shifting over to salaries. Is that correct or no?
It is, Mr. Chairman. There's also, from year to year, routine movement and shifting of staff within the parks. So as a division of parks, operations is picking up about 8 FTEs this year.
And as a follow-up that through the chairman, to the administration. Under personnel, it appears that the FTEs in the Parks Department are increasing by roughly 20 and a half FTEs. Can you please walk us through the changes, including new titles, removed titles, additional FTEs to existing, changes in groups, et cetera?
We did a lot of work with the Parks Management team, Mr. Chairman, regarding their staffing needs and payroll needs. It has been historically typical to have temporary seasonal staff maintain our parks. In this budget, for as long as I've been a county employee, we've associated seasonal staff and part-time staff as half an FTE. Perhaps working 20 hours a week, correct? It has been historically different within parks. Staff typically have worked more than half an FTE, so we immediately have a mismatch in our budget book and our approach to staffing. So to accommodate Parks Management, budget, human resource staff got together, talked through their staffing needs and their approach each year, and felt two approaches, because you may all recall that for the past 2 years, we've come to the legislature with budget reappropriation referrals to add salary dollars to the Parks Department. So our approach in 2025, after discussions, was to increase the seasonal staffing headcount, but then also, the budget still reflects half an FTE for seasonal staff, but we added a couple $275,000 of additional payroll to accommodate for the additional hours that are actually being worked.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. And I see the overtime is increasing by $10,000. Is there a certain area where we think that's going to increase, or is it going to be just overall in the department?
In discussions, really, Mr. Chairman, it's right-sizing the overtime budget based on what Parks has been experiencing the past couple of years.
And the shift differential increasing, I'm assuming that's collective bargaining agreements?
It is, Mr. Chairman.
And I guess,
Legislator, I really have been annoyed ever since I showed up here with all that through the chair stuff. But that's like 5 questions without saying it, and I guess I'm supposed to enforce it.
okay,
If
I
you don't mind-
apologize.
If you don't mind. I personally think it's kind of stilted,
Yeah, I mean,
but
But-
that's the
okay.
culture of this organization,
I
so-
have no problem with
All right,
that.
God bless, thank you.
Yep. So through the chair, why do occupational exams fall to 0 from $7,000?
This particular line, Mr. Chairman, is a change we set up in 2024. Office of Management budget will actually spread estimated costs for occupational exams to all departments. So this is formulaic. Operations, most of the staff in Parks, I think, is in support services.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. And through the chair, and again, I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
I was just trying to move this along so we could all get out of here. Why do commercial services fall by $8,000?
This line, Mr. Chairman, really accounts for city refuse pickup. I will note higher costs in 2023, which was associated with movie licensing fees. We have movies in the park.
All right, and through the chair, why do maintenance buildings fall $2,000?
Mr. Chairman, really, this is a better estimate of the cost of next year's elevator inspections in Parks buildings. Perhaps the budget for $10,000 this year was a little on the high side.
All right, and through the chair, why does maintenance equipment increase by $5,000?
This particular line, Mr. Chairman, accounts for the fire alarm inspections, fire extinguisher inspections, and is a little reflective of what we've seen in 2022 and 2023.
And through the chair, why do professional services increase by $75,000?
As mentioned in my presentation, Mr. Chairman, this line has our study for trail development at Northampton Park.
And through the chair, why do public work services towns fall to 0 from 4,000?
Good question, Mr. Chairman. Simple answer. This really accommodated the acquisition costs of rock salt used at Menon Ponds Park, but that budget line has been moved to the equipment page, so you have to flip the page to see that.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. And through the chair, why does rental equipment fall by 15,000? Are we not running something that we normally do?
It was additional lighting, Mr. Chairman, budgeted in 2024. Really, this line for 2025, the lighting portion is really only, I'm sorry, it really is, additional lighting in 2024. The budget going forward really is only $5,000 for lighting. It's really, this line is predominantly for renting porta potties. $60,000 worth.
They're pricey.
And through the chair on page 606, why does equipment fall to $0 from 10,000?
I'll research that and respond, Mr. Chairman.
And why, through the chair, why does fuel increase by $5,000? Gasoline decrease by 15.
Fuel really, for the most part, in this county accounts for the purchase of propane, although the Parks Department does purchase oil and oil gas mixtures. Gasoline is reflective simply of a projected use for 2025.
Thank you. And through the chair, why do institutional supplies increase by 10,500, and what is being purchased?
So that must be, Mr. Chairman, in comparison to the adopted budget. The amended budget reflects 37,500, so really it's just rounding up to the nearest 38,000, and I see that is really more reflective of the costs incurred in 2023. And I believe what is being purchased was asked. Institutional supplies really represent janitorial supplies for the most part in this county.
And through the chair, why do landscaping farm supplies increase by 7,500?
This, Mr. Chairman, is where we put that $5,000 for Menon Pond Park's road salts, so that explains most of the increase. A lot of what gets purchased as landscaping and farm supplies are weed whackers, trimmers, wedges.
And through the chair, why do recreational supplies decrease by 5,000?
This was additional funding, Mr. Chairman, in the 2024 budget that is not foreseen to be ongoing. So this is really $5,000 for parks playgrounds.
And through the chair, why do technical supplies increase by 5,000?
This is a concerted effort, Mr. Chairman, by the team at Parks Department to catch up on HVAC repair and bathroom grinder cores.
Thank you. And through the chair, I'm assuming the total benefits increase of 144,000 is the increase in the FTEs. Is that correct, Mr. Franklin?
Commensurate with the increase in payroll, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And through the chair, why do total interdepartmental charges fall 58,000?
Again, Mr. Chairman, there's a dozen or so items that are each separately delineated on this particular page. So you will see a variety of increases or decreases depending on the particular line.
Thank you. And through the chair, on page 607, why do construction supplies increase $15,000?
This is an area, Mr. Chairman, where the Parks Department has switched up how they approach their site and access improvements. So there have been over the years changes in the capital fund, but this particular line is being utilized more frequently for the purchase of smaller tools, lumber, and plumbing supplies for the shelters and lodges.
Thank you. And through the chair, why does the equipment fall 10,000?
We're on 607 still?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, can the legislator recite the commitment item line, the commitment number?
It was page 607, I believe, and it's equipment. I guess it's under equipment. Do you have that?
505040, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, we really show this as increasing by $1,000. The 2024 amended budget is $4,000. Again, interplay between what typically has been charged on a particular line, construction supplies versus equipment. It all depends on the commodity code where SAP drives the expense. So I think department managers in parks, like many departments, pick a budget line within the 505s to fund and let the expenses fall where they may, depending on the SAP coding.
And through the chair, I'm assuming the 46,000 increase in total benefits again is the increased FTEs.
Should be commensurate with an increase in payroll.
Yeah,
Mr.
so I want
Chairman.
to clarify, you've asked twice, is it FTE, but I think the answer has been payroll. Payroll is not necessarily FTE.
Correct. But I wasn't sure if it was the extra 20 and a half employees we hired.
Right.
So that's what I was just trying to get to.
Because payroll reflects the increases in salaries,
Salaries
which
and with
drive the
collective
benefits.
bargaining agreements, et cetera. Exactly. Why the, through the chair, why the reduction of 13,000 in interdepartmental charges?
Park Support Services, Mr. Chairman, has a fewer, probably half the number of interdepartment charges as other divisions, but they are all separately delineated on page 607. So you can pick your poison on which one to look at. Fleet maintenance has been a big one in parks that has been declining.
Thank you. And through the chair, on page 608, Seneca Park Zoo, salaries increased by 464,000. Is that the temporary help sliding over there again?
That is predominantly the response for that increase, Mr. Chairman.
And through the chair, why does the overtime fall? 37,000? I mean, that's a pretty significant.
So again, Mr. Chairman, this must be in a comparison to the adopted budget for 2024. Again, we've come to this legislature with budget reappropriation referrals. We've actually added money to this particular line in the zoo. The amended budget is $110,000, so we are requesting $147,000, which is better in line with the actuals we've seen in 22 and 23.
Thank you.
The actual is actually only $60 less than what you're budgeting.
All right, through the chair, why does travel increase by $2,500, and do we know what the travel would be for?
So in addition to just what I'll call run-of-the-mill professional development and conference attendance, this particular line is used by the zoo to accommodate, I don't know if it has a name, we call it Roundup for penguins or Roundup for elephants. The AZA requires, as part of our accreditation, support for certain conservation efforts. SSA Group works with us to drive contributions. You buy your can of pop for $1.75 and you pay $2. You round up for penguins. And then that money is reflected in this budget book as revenue. And we have the parks team budget the expenditures related to their conservation activities. So you will see travel included as part of that, and this would be travel to, whether we are receiving education or delivering the education, travel to AZA-supported seminars and conferences. You will also see lower on this page, agency contracts. That's another area where we show the use of those dollars. I think it depends on the year, but it's about $35,000 at parks budgets and revenue and expense.
Thank you. And through the chair, why does training computer-related increase from 0 to 5,500?
That's a new database that has been acquired at the zoo. It's called Species 360, and it's the cost for learning to use that system.
Thank you. And through the chair, maintenance buildings falls, $8,100.
It's interesting, I can tell you what is included in this line. This really is the elevator inspection, maintenance, and repair. Why there was requested appropriations for the 2024 budget, we can research and respond.
Thank you. And through the chair, why does maintenance equipment fall to 4,000?
This is the anticipated and budgeted cost for our generator maintenance. It's about $5,000, and we also have fire sprinkler system and fire extinguisher inspections budgeted at $6,000.
Thank you. And through the chair, why does the rental of equipment falls for $0 from $3,000? What did we rent this year that we're not?
This is specialty equipment, Mr. Chairman. In particular, it was diagnostic equipment used by the veterinarian.
Thank you. And under the utilities, steam and water through the chair increases by about 35,000, while gas falls and the electric fall. Any explanation on those, Mr. Franklin?
These utility lines, we rely heavily, right, wrong, or indifferent, on our consultants from Fluid Energy. So these are right from them.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, plan on going through the entire parks budget, line by line, and then we're going to do MCC, and then we're going to do agencies that we also fund, and is that the intent here?
No, it looks like we're just going through parks.
Okay. Because, you know, some of the questions, and I respect the effort, some of the questions are, the variance in the money is so small that, as you know, as a very experienced leader, you know, in budgeting, there's not even really necessarily a reason in terms of a differential in what the county's doing to account for something that's as low as $3,000, right? So, but, you know, if you feel like you're getting the answers you need.
Yep.
Okay, let's see if we can,
Well, okay, Mr. Chairman.
I'll yield.
thank you.
I'll just ask a couple of that topic, if you don't mind. And then I'll defer to the ranking member here to take it from there. But I'm not sure that we've covered or we're going to cover this. But as I remember, there was, through the chair to the administration, there was talk of a seaquarium and a shark tank down at the zoo. I was just wondering where that stands.
That's within the scope.
At EPW, Director Garland, you know what, you want to take over? Director Garland mentioned that bids have gone out. They are expected shortly. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, as Director Garland did state during EPW, the consultant selection process is still ongoing, and in Q1 2025, there will be a referral coming before this body to formally select a new consultant to lead the Tropics and Front Entry Complex.
Safe to describe what's happened relative to this issue as the county has tried to proceed with a concern for the overall cost, because the costs have come in on the vision above what folks maybe will be able to stomach financially. Is that a fair way of describing how we're looking at it?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I would characterize it as the county is seeking to move forward with this project on budget.
Well,
Go ahead,
through the chair to the administration, yeah, I understood that last RFPs came in fairly high and we weren't going to have the money to move forward with that. But also, as I remember, a year or two ago, we were talking about the Zoo Society putting up some money to help with this. I was wondering how much the Zoo Society has collected so far in donations, and towards their $25 million that they were gonna put into the project.
Mr. Chairman, we can get that, those financial figures to this body. However, I would be remiss if I did not say that I think the society continues to relay their fundraising is hamstrung by not having plans to show donors.
Thank you. Legislator, go ahead.
No, I have no further questions. I'll give it to the ranking member.
Well, I
for-
might want to check over here. Does anybody have any questions over here? I'm going to ask a few questions just to give some of my esteemed colleagues a little break while you gather your remaining questions. So if we can go to the budget book in page 93, where we're starting in with the cultural and educational services of the budget. I was wondering if, please, you could talk about the extraordinary decrease in the debt service at MCC on page 93, and what accounts for such an extraordinary drop in the percentage of debt service that we have on the MCC debt.
This year, Mr. Chairman, for the 25 proposed budget, the decrease in debt service is related to 2024's final maturity for Property Preservation 2 capital project. So that was a significant annual payment each year.
Just for the record, can you describe briefly what that project was or is?
Property preservation, there was a 1, 2, there was a 3 that we are currently in. The college groups similar projects together in a property preservation. They're not necessarily projects that renovate the same building, but they are projects that need to be sequentially planned, such that when you renovate this section of classrooms, you need swing space somewhere else before you can renovate those. So they are designed to be sequential, but not necessarily the same building.
So it would be safe to say that this particular item, this debt service, is not really like a mortgage because we're going to have to take on some more debt with the ongoing work we're doing for them?
The next round, Property Preservation 3, will have its own set of bond issuances.
I appreciate that. And as far as MCC is concerned, that was really my main question. And then talking about the cultural and education services on page 95, you know, I'm very interested in Visit Rochester as an expenditure. I know they receive money from other sources, particularly the city of Rochester. We have a significant increase, and you did mention, Chairman, that they bring in money, we hope. But do we understand the nexus between their efforts and the actual tourism? In other words, is there a way for us to be certain that, in fact, they're bringing in? Because this is a pretty big increase here. It's $500,000 that, you know, we're budgeting for Visit Rochester. So I guess I want to talk a little bit about how do we know it works?
It is, Mr. Chairman. I am not a fan of the economic multipliers that many organizations use to justify their work. Having said that, I think Rochester Works as an entity that, did I say Rochester Works?
You did, but it's late. Thank you, Mr. Bringawad, for correcting that, because I wasn't going to.
Visit Rochester has demonstrated their ability to pull it off. Having been a former board member at the Convention Center, I did see firsthand their work in partnership with Convention Center staff to get conventions booked locally and our hotel rooms rented. And they have a very good relationship with our area hotel management teams, a very good relationship with the Convention Center. I will also comment that this body has twice allocated additional funding for Visit Rochester. previously in their support of the PGA that was in town 2 years ago, in their support of promoting, it was a little cloudy, I know, but the total solar eclipse earlier in April. So generally speaking, we would expect $1 invested to generate $3 in return. And what we're seeing is pretty much that with our hotel occupancy tax revenue.
I think it's too late to really have an argument about that, and I don't want to argue about that. So I'd like to move on to our authorized agencies, and all of my questions that relate to this are policy-oriented. They're not criticisms of the decision. So as we look at it, and we get into the why, it'd be hard for me to explain why, for instance, Jiva's getting 44,000, Blue Cross Arena's getting 905,000, or, you know, let's say Susan B. Anthony, 86.5, Science Center, 259,000. What are the dominant, and I appreciate the additional agencies. I was an advocate for Lollipop Farm. I would declare my interest that I'm a huge advocate for Lollipop Farm. I love seeing it on here. But I guess for the purposes of our legislators, for this vast amount of money, can we talk a little bit about how we got here, the why of these numbers?
Yeah, and I'll give it to you straight, Mr. Chairman. We don't like change. So the entities that are authorized typically, in my experience, have remained authorized. They got to do something pretty bad to get unauthorized. But we have added a few agencies here and there. As CFO of this county, it has been my goal to make sure this body imposes the tax. It's been my goal to make sure we benefit equal, if not a little more than the city of Rochester, because we have some very good tourism entities as well. We categorize the War Memorial and the Convention Center as principal tourism entities. Well, this is where you go for a convention, and this is where you go for big events. However, the Seneca Park Zoo consistently has been within the top 3, I would even say the top 2 cultural organizations in this town based on household memberships. Strong Museum of Play is number 1. We also have a baseball stadium. Amherst play at a city facility, the Red Wings play at a county facility. I don't understand why we impose the tax. Why wouldn't we pay ourselves at least what we pay Blue Cross Arena for our stadium? We also have been, for the past several years, sponsoring a Veterans Day parade. We have historically not had one, but that draws a lot of people, so we're covering our costs with a new allocation to our Department of Veteran Services Agency.
But if we go back to your first part of your response, is it safe to say that Cornell Cooperative Extension receiving $582,000 is in part a product of that we've been funding them for a while and they're getting increments over time?
That's not incorrect, Mr. Chairman. I will say with respect to Cornell Cooperative Extension, they are more of a partner to Monroe County. They lease space from our Parks Department for their offices. It was over at Highland Park. They've moved. They're now in a facility in Seneca Park. It's not on the zoo property, but it's in Seneca Park on St. Paul Boulevard, St. Paul Street. Forget what that dividing line is. But we are also including in their particular allocation more than just the typical authorized agency funding. This proposed budget for 2025 includes $130,000 fee-for-service revenue for food insecurity. So we make most of our authorized agency payments on a quarterly basis. When it comes to the $130,000 for food insecurity, they bill us each month as they incur costs. So that's more of a reimbursement stream to them. That's part of their $582,000. So I can tell you Cornell Cooperative Extension is getting $452,000 for their general operating costs and $130,000 additional specific to food insecurity efforts.
I guess my question would be, and in fact, I'd make it a rhetorical question. It's not fair to ask you to, or anyone to answer it. My question would be, though, that, you know, shouldn't there be at some point some type of review with an eye toward rebalancing allocations? Because I'm more convinced that they're fair listening to you describe them, but the Memorial Art Gallery, $86,500, the Rochester Museum and Science Center, $1,165,000. I'm just as an ignorant school teacher who has visited these places briefly, not enough, uneducated and uncultured as I am, that strikes me as being an anomaly.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, with respect to Rochester Museum and Science Center, it's not really an anomaly. I know it looks like it in this book, but historically, they housed, from the city of Rochester, the pre-1968 collection that was transferred from the city to the county, to the museum on behalf of the county, to house and maintain that collection. And the county historically supported them dollar for dollar to do so. In the late 90s, budgets here got incredibly tight. Their funding, their annual funding increases did not keep pace with their expenditures. And they have come here in prior years to
I've heard
present.
them. Yeah.
So that is a little different, is they're actually housing on our behalf the pre-1968 collection.
Well, I guess I'll just declare that I have an interest in revisiting that for the following years, not tonight, though, but I wanted to just make that point. All right. Any other questions from the group around this budget presentation? Legislator Sinclair.
Through the chair, back to page 609, continuing with parks and the Seneca Park Zoo. Why does equipment increase by 5,000?
Mr. Chairman, simple variations within the budget.
Thank you. And through the chair, why do institutional supplies increase by another 5,000?
As I've stated, institutional supplies, Mr. Chairman, predominantly represent janitorial and cleaning supplies. I think you will find the increase in the proposed budget is more commensurate with the zoo has been paying the past 2 years.
I mean, just for clarify for anybody watching on TV, it shows clearly that the actual in 2023 on equipment is $13,475 more than the budget for next year. It shows in institutional supplies that the actual is $2,624 more in 2023 than we're looking for in 2025. So isn't it fair to say that a lot of these budgeted items are being driven by experience and the actual that we're spending?
Point of order.
Yeah.
He has the floor.
Well, yeah, and I'm just engaging. We're trying to get the facts out.
He has the floor.
And I'm the chair.
Okay?
So
I
I'm
mean,
going to
if it's
speak.
not germane, you have no standing to cut him off or to take his time.
I haven't
unless
cut
it's
him
not
off.
for
He
germane.
still has the floor.
No, you're talking
He
when
still
he's-
has the floor.
You're interrupting him.
You're interrupting me.
You're right, I am, because you've been doing it all night long.
I have the right to ask questions. Go ahead.
You do,
Legislator
when you
Sinclair.
have the floor.
I give the floor or I take the floor away as presiding officer of this meeting.
That's fine.
Well, that's what I just did. Go ahead, Legislator Sinclair.
Continue?
Continue.
Through the chair, why did the total benefits increase by $106,000?
Mr. Chairman, that particular increase in all benefits really is reflective of the additional payroll budgeted next year for '25.
Okay, and through the chair, on page 610, continuing with Parks and the Seneca Park Zoo, why did the total interdepartment charges fall by $56,000?
Mr. Chairman, in aggregate, it's a $56,000 decrease, but I will say that there's probably a dozen interdepartment charges that make up the total, and they are separately delineated on this particular page. And you can see variations in chargebacks from information services, our billing operations through maintenance and construction, and insurances.
Thank you. And through the chair, onto page 611, Parks. Why are occupational exams eliminated?
Occupational exams, Mr. Chairman, new in 2024, continuing in 2025, is the result of office and management and budget spread, a cost allocation based on historical averages.
And through the chair, why did the commercial services fall by $3,500?
It's actually a little bit of an increase, Mr. Chairman. The amended budget for 2024 was $2,000, and we're requesting $35,000. It is a bit of a challenge. This particular line accommodates the cost of city refuse pickup, pest control and exterminating. So I think I have a note that also includes bat relocation. But it is humorous, but I see in 2023, the actual cost was a little higher, just over $5,200. But these one-off expenses, like a bat relocation, come up unexpectedly from year to year. So it can be a challenge for department management to accurately predict future expenses over quite such a variety of budget lines. As I've said in prior committees, I think the approach used by many county departmental managers is to plop a bigger dollar amount on one line and let the actual invoices be coded to the correct expense account based on SAP coding.
And through the chair to the administration, why does the equipment increase by $5,000?
This is where the Parks Department, Mr. Chairman, pays for most of its small tools. They have budgeted small tool expenditures in other divisions, parks operations, and that has been moved to horticultural programs. Division 8802, which I think is operations specifically.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, why do other supplies increase from 0 to 3,000, and what's being bought with these funds?
We can research that and respond, Mr. Chairman. The reason for the increase, again, is as actual invoices come in and those are paid and expensed to very specific general ledger accounts, you see cost all over this page, but yet the budget is only on half of the lines. But we can research what was behind that actual $3,800 expense.
Still on 613? Are we
I was
still
on page
legislative, still
611,
on
Mr. Chairman.
613?
I'm sorry, what page?
What page are we on?
Oh, yeah. 611.
You have the floor, legislator.
Okay, we were done. And through the chair, why did the technical supplies increase to 5,000? What's being purchased?
Mr. Chairman, technical supplies is such a variety, and again, the actual expenses in 2023 were over $4,400. I believe the management team, in conjunction with their OMB analyst, just plug that number.
And through the chair, to page 612, continue with Parks. Why is the retirement line item increasing from 136,125 to 190,260?
A lot of the increases in retirement, Mr. Chairman, can be attributed to two reasons. One, the increase in estimated pension bill that New York State is projecting, and also by budgeting the salaries for seasonal staff, not in temp help, but in salaries. So as the salaries budget increases, so does the retirement percentage.
Thank you. And through the chair, why is the IS unemployment insurance line doubling from 8542 to 2937?
The approach in budget, Mr. Chairman, is to spread the cost of workers' comp claims using a 3-year rolling average to the individual departments.
And through the chair to the administration, why is the IS workers' compensation doubling?
It's the same answer, Mr. Chairman. We spread these insurances based on a 3-year rolling average of actual experience.
And through the chair, why is the IS risk management decreasing from 7818 to 196?
As mentioned in other committees, Mr. Chairman, we are not budgeting in '25 the $2 million of self-insurance reserve within risk management.
And through the chair, are there any other drivers behind the $21,000 increase in total benefits?
Only as delineated specifically on this page, Mr. Chairman.
And through the chair, are there any other drivers behind the $19,000 change in total interdepartment charges?
Mr. Chairman, only as delineated on this page.
Through the chair, moving on to page 613, Parks and Recreation. Why did this temp help fall 25,000?
This is the budget line we use to track the payroll for seasonal lifeguards, Mr. Chairman. This must be an estimate of the number of lifeguards to be employed for 2025.
Through the chair, why does the rental and equipment increase $1,000 and what is being rented? And is this matching increase $1,000, a decrease in equipment?
This particular line, Mr. Chairman, relates to movies in the park, and the rental of equipment was specific for movie projection services.
Through the chair, why did the total benefits fall $2,000?
It's a big reduction in salaries, Mr. Chairman, so with that, you'll see a reduction in benefits.
Thank you. And through the chair, why did the total interdepartment charges increase by 3,000?
There's about a half a dozen interdepartment specific charges on this page, and you can see for each particular charge the associated increase or decrease. It looks like the charge from our county IS department is increasing quite a bit, and that is based on the software and systems used by Parks Department, maintained by Information Services, as well as the number of specific licenses on enterprise-wide software.
I yield.
So as follow-up to the legislator, what changes have happened to the employer contribution rate for the New York State and local retirement system? What's the differential between the ECR for the prior year and this coming year?
That is stated somewhere in our budget book, but frankly, what you would recognize as the OSC published contribution rates really does not apply to Monroe County, as we participate in the alternate employer contribution stability program. So we have a set percentage that we know from year to year what we have to pay, but we are also required to pay a graded payment when our statutorily defined contribution rate is below a certain, below the published rate of a certain threshold.
So we took the opportunity to kind of finance it during the years when it exploded. Basically, that they gave us that option and we took it.
Right, the option was to amortize a portion of our contribution. We have, by the way, Mr. Chairman, completely paid off all prior year amortizations.
Feel like it worked out for us, taking the amortization on that?
It was absolutely critical that we avail ourselves. At that time, we had no cash.
Yeah, just for clarification, the rate was actually 0 at one time. Went all the way up to, what did it peak at? 24 cents on a dollar or 20?
Frankly, no, it was, the ERS was, I think, as high as 20, well, maybe it was 22 or 24.
Something like that, yeah. Legislator McCabe, you got some questions?
I do, sir, thank you. Through the chair, on page 614, under the temporary help, this is one of the few areas where temp help is increased. Is there a reason it went up 150,000?
This is better reflective, Mr. Chairman, of the needs to maintain county golf courses. So we tried to better budget this line.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. And on that same page, through the chair, why do commercial services fall 5,500?
There's a number of expenses in this particular line. Again, pest control and exterminations, refuse pickup. We did purchase at our golf courses cable TV, and we are not next year. That's a savings of $3,000.
Thank you. And through the chair, on page 615, the commissary is increasing by 25,000.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it is. Commissary, this is the food and beverage sold at our golf courses. We've seen an uptick in the number of rounds of golf, and people like their beer and hot dogs.
Perfect. And through the chair on that same page, why are construction supplies doubling?
With an increase in the rounds of golf comes an increase in the wear on our golf courses and equipment. So this basically provides funding for the various paint, lumber, or plumbing supplies to keep the courses in ship shape.
And through the chair, I guess a follow-up, and maybe you just answered it, is that why equipment falls from 40,000 to 0, because it's moving there, or no?
There is no particular budget on this line in 2025, but there is a capital fund, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, and through the chair, what other supplies were increasing from 0 to 2,000? What are we purchasing under those other supplies?
Specifically, Mr. Chairman, welding supplies, the cylinders and the CO2 tanks.
All right, and through the chair, on what are the recreational supplies that were increasing by $15,000?
Those are the items we sell at our pro shop, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and through the chair, why are technical supplies increasing 3,000?
Technical supplies, a lot of our departments use this line for battery replacement, electrical supplies. That's primarily what the golf courses are acquiring.
Thank you, and through the chair, on the capital leases, they fall $235,000.
A increase, Mr. Chairman. Our lease runs 5 years. The prior 5-year lease was much more favorable at $180,000. When Parks Management bid this out again, we are looking at a $415,000 lease for our greenskeeping equipment.
All right, and through the chair, moving on to page 715, why does the hotel motel tax increase by 150,000?
That, Mr. Chairman, is my stated philosophy that we've discussed already.
Just want to make sure I got that right. And On that same page through the chair, why does state aid increase by 13,000? Is that a new grant?
No, Mr. Chairman, that's our zoo and botanical garden grant we get from New York State. It's never a set amount, but
All right, and through the chair, why do fees fall $100,000?
this is admission, this is primarily admission fees at Seneca Park Zoo. And in my, this is my 12th budget, and I will say it's always been too hot to go to the zoo or too rainy to go to the zoo. And over the 12 years I've been doing this, admission revenues more often fall short than they exceed budget. So we're just trying to be a little conservative here.
Couple more questions, Mr. Franklin. On that same page, 715, miscellaneous revenues increase 115,000. What is this?
I've mentioned the roundup for elephants, and I guessed $35,000. I was a little short. I should have guessed $40,000. That would be the gifts and donations. But we also get additional revenues that are collected by SSA Group. They do more fundraising than just round up those purchases. That you can actually make specific contributions to SSA and the Zoo Society.
And on that same page, through the chair, the fees are increasing by 30,000.
On that same page, Mr. Chairman?
716, I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, this is our Lamberton Conservatory, Mr. Chairman. Yes, there's roughly a 5% rate increase. Or more.
I'm sorry, what are we looking at? What's the code on 716 that we're looking at?
It was, why are the fees increasing by 30,000?
And that's specifically the Lamberton Conservatory. And there is a fee increase at the conservatory.
Thank you.
And then my final question through the chair, on page 717, why do the fees increase $9,000 there?
Reflective, Mr. Chairman, of, I believe, a referral is either going through committee or was already voted on this month for ticketed events in parks. This is the line we account for ticketed events. And the fee increase on this page compared to the existing budget reflects the park's work to improve their collection methods.
And with that, I just want to thank you, Mr. Franklin, you and your team for the work tonight and the taking the time to answer all of our questions. It was greatly appreciated, and I yield.
Before we end the questions, anybody else on the committee?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to point out, and maybe I misunderstand it, that the agenda calls for a presentation, and that the questions, which I feel have been handled very generously by all the committees, there's no motion on the floor. And it's a courtesy to try to get all the information we can out and have everybody's questions answered. And I'd like to think we did that. So let's move on and have our committee meeting. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the July 30, 2024 minutes before you. They'll stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Any other matters to come before this committee? Oops, new business. Who gave me this script? All right.
Referral 24-0373, recommendation of the appointment of county historian in accordance with New York State Arts and Cultural Affairs Law, Section 57.07.
Moved by legislator Bartholomew McCoy, seconded by legislator Hasman. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carried.
Referral 24-0374, authorizing a license agreement with Bella Events Group for the 2025 Rochester Pride Festival.
Moved by legislator Bartholomew McCoy, seconded by legislator Hasman. Is there any discussion?
Yes, through the chair, how much money is the county receiving from this license agreement?
Mr. Chairman, in 2024, the Parks Department collected $7,790 for this event.
And to the chair, why is this license agreement coming to us before plans have been finalized?
Mr. Chairman, the special event application has a fee charged per 10 by 10 event, 10 by 10 vendor. So each one of those is charged a $75 fee. That is why the estimate at this time cannot be given.
And through the chair, will the veterans and other memorials be fenced off to protect any damage or harm that the festival may cause?
Mr. Chairman, similar to last year, all of the vet site will be fenced off, and Bella Events has again guaranteed that a security officer will be placed in that site.
Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed signify by saying nay. I'll have a roll call vote then, please? Or did I just hear correctly that legislator McCabe and legislator Sinclair have voted no?
That would be 5-2. Referral passes.
5-2. Thank you.
Referral 24-0375, authorize an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Parma for the establishment and operation of an off-leash dog park.
By legislator Bartholomew McCoy, seconded by legislator Hasman. Is there any discussion? Oh, legislator McCabe.
Thank you, sir. Through the chair, how much money will this IMA generate for the county?
Through the chair, it's difficult to predict how many Parma town residents will sign on. I can state that right now we have 27 town of Parma residents, which we collect approximately $648 for. Of course, half of that goes, the $24 fee, $12 of that goes back to the town, $12 of that comes to the county of Monroe. Since the town has finished construction on this dog park, that's been roughly 6 to 8 weeks, we've seen 4 new members from the town of Parma.
Thank you. I yield.
Just to follow up, do we have a reference point from an existing dog park as to how many people participate, just to get us?
To the chair, we have 1,951 active dog park members.
How many dog parks do we have?
The County of Monroe operates and maintains 3 at Webster, Ellison, and Grease Canal, and we partner with the town of Sweden, Pittsford, and Henrietta.
Excellent, appreciate that. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Next item.
Referral 24-0413, amend Resolution 144 of 2011 as amended by Resolution 313 of 2020, Resolution 427 of 2021, Resolution 283 of 2022, and Resolution 394 of 2023 to provide funding to the Lilac Festival and to extend the term of the agreement to produce the Lilac Festival in Highland Park, and authorize an intermunicipal agreement with the City of Rochester.
Moved by legislator Bartholomew McCoy, seconded by legislator Hasman. Is there any discussion? I have a question. So I'm a little confused about the one-time payment in the referral letter. So what is the one-time payment? Is that the 150 or the 50?
Through the chair, it is a one-time payment of 200,000, 150 from the county, 50 from the city.
So to follow up, so we're authorizing us to enter into an agreement to accept 50 from the city that we in turn then give to the Lilac Festival.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you. Any other discussion or follow-up? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Are there any other matters to come before this committee?
A lot. And as a first-time legislator going through the process, it is important that I look at every dollar. That's why there are so many questions. It is our tax dollars out there, so.
Thanks for your hard work.
But thank you.
We always have time and room for people to praise people. So I guess I think, since I'm the last chair to be up here, you know, CFO Franklin, thank you. I mean, the fact that you can answer all those questions it intimidates me. I mean, I don't know if there's too many people who can internalize $1.5 billion, which you can. So thank you. We're lucky to have you. So hearing no more chirping or talking, anybody else have anything? We're adjourned. We're going to meet again. I don't know when.